And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us. We're going to be joined by former National Intelligence Officer, literal rocket scientist, Navy pilot, Jason Pratt. He was actually stationed for a year or more in Bahrain, in the actual building he worked that we just saw get targeted and blown up the other day. We have some pictures of him standing in front of that building. We're going to get his analysis on what's happening, because his area of expertise, as I just said, is as a rocket scientist. It's also in the area of putting up satellites. It's also in the area of drones. So we have a lot to talk about with him. We're also going to be joined, of course, by our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. Before we get to them, let me just simply state, I'm planning on doing my radio show all week long. I'm planning on doing the radio, but I will not be doing the Worldview Report at all this week. Two things collided into, what's the Bible say? You make the plans, you lay down plans, but the Lord directs the actual outcome. So for many months, I had planned to take a lot of this week off to spend time with my wife for our 35th wedding anniversary. And not only do I have a herniated disc at C6 and C7 in the neck, which was getting really, really better, improving, until I did something really dumb last night. I picked up Dolly and put her in the tub, and that was not a smart move. So that just set me back a few days. But we'll get over this. A lot of you have had it. We've been hearing from a lot of you, but you do know how excruciating it is. The biggest problem is going to bed at night. You just can't sleep. You just cannot get comfortable. You literally have to sleep sitting up. Because anytime you lay down, you start having pressure, and it's just ridiculously painful. So you spend the night literally sitting up, like in a chair. That's the only way of getting sleep. And you don't get very much like that. But that had to happen right now, right? And then war broke out. And so all of these things collided on a week that was supposed to be relaxing, celebrating my 35th wedding anniversary with my wife, and then these two things happened. But she's a trooper. We're carrying on. And we'll be doing radio all week, but I will not be doing the Worldview Report. I'll be doing Brandon House Live tonight, probably Wednesday night, but I'm going to have some guest hosts fill in so I can spend some time with my wife. And really, at the same time, I need to take some time off. I can't type. This is where the problem, the doctor said, started. Years of sitting at a computer, typing and looking down. And so you need to stay off that computer as much as possible, he said. So there you go. But with that said, let's go to our guest. Let's go first to our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. Aaron, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for joining us. We did a bunch of special broadcasts over the weekend. I want to thank Annie Cyrus. I hosted for 2 hours on Saturday morning from the desk. Then I let her take it from there. Although I was on the calls, I let her take it from there. And thank you for joining us with those. What's the latest there in Israel tonight, Aaron?
Hey, Brandon, I wish and pray for speedy recovery for you. I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Well, the latest, oh my gosh, what a day. What a day. I mean, talk about precision striking. Israel, America are working together hand in hand. This is absolutely brilliant strategic planning, and we can see how this has been planned. This is not just off-the-cuff decisions. They're penetrated inside of Iran, taking out at least 1,500 IRGC fighters, also taking out military installations. They have full air supremacy over Iran now. On top of that, and I'll get back to Iran, during the night, the war opened up from the north. Hezbollah decided that they are going to get involved, and so they have started to fire missiles at us up in the north. And our military intelligence obviously knew this was happening, because first they called up 70,000 reservists. That number has now grown to 100,000, and we're not taken by surprise. I was thinking about that today, Brandon. What a difference, even sitting here 2.5 years ago when the war began on October the 7th. Do you remember how dark I looked, how shattered I was, the whole nation? this is so different. We're under the same kind of war, but we are in such a different place. We're in a place of strength. We've got one foot ahead of our enemies, to say the least. This is from a place of strength, a place of on the front foot. We know where our enemies are firing from. We have the United States Navy and Air Force with us. Donald Trump is calling for the IRGC to surrender. He's offering immunity to any soldiers that do that surrender. But he has made it very clear. He said, we haven't even begun. Can you believe that? We haven't even begun. And he said it's going to get even more intense. And, can you imagine how the Iranian people are feeling hearing this kind of talk from the greatest superpower in the world, pulling down their regime? I'm seeing videos all around the world of Iranians cheering, London, Melbourne, Australia. And the crazy thing is, today, right at this moment, it is now 9 p.m. in Israel. This is the beginning of Purim, the Feast of Esther. And one of the big themes of the book of Esther is everything turned around. And here I am hearing people, mainly the Iranians all around the world, they're cheering Israelis. They're going out with Israeli flags. It's like we're Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. It's like they're the heroes. They're the Mordecais of the day. And so there's even like I said last night with Ani, even though Haman was taken out, the battle wasn't over. There was still fighting to be done. And even though the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, has been taken out, there's a lot of fighting. It's intense. I was in the bomb shelters at least a dozen times today. We're getting hit in Beersheba, down in the south, in the central zone. Jerusalem is taking a pounding. Someone actually from the United States wrote to me and said, Aaron, we're praying for you. We're praying that some of those missiles might just find their way to the Temple Mount and destroy one or two of the buildings up there. I said, keep praying.
Yes.
So it's pretty intense, Brandon. But
Jimmy D. Young used to joke about that one of these missiles would go astray and hit that building up there that we all know then would be very interesting, would it not? So yeah, Jimmy D. Young used to talk about that as a possibility. Here at home, we are seeing breaking. Democrats are stunned after major new poll just found Republicans surged 8+ points in the 2026 congressional ballot, now tied 50-50 with Democrats. They were previously trailing per the Harris poll. So there you go. Now, we were seeing polls, however, also, though. What percentage of Americans are for and against this, Logan, were we hearing? 27% were for it. Only 27% were for, that was a Reuters poll. So we also saw, I think, a Gallup poll over the weekend that for the first time, more Americans are sympathetic to the Palestinians than they are the Israelis. We'll see how this goes. Someone that watches the broadcast, I guess, sent in a message, and Logan said, did you see what, name the individual, sent you? I said, no, what did they send? And the individual said, you, Brandon, and your guest, you guys called it. You guys called it. And she was referring to the fact we said, if we strike Iran, be looking for the activation of terror cells. And now we are, of course, hearing the DHS, the FBI, they have put out warnings. They're on a higher alert. They're increasing the security in several major cities. Some of the cities, of course, have high Jewish populations, but they're increasing security, and they're concerned about terror cells being activated and terrorist attacks. In Austin, Texas, on Saturday night, by now most of you know, as we've been reporting, a man who was let in around the year 2000, I guess finally became a naturalized citizen in 2013. He went on a killing spree in Austin, Texas, wearing a sweatshirt that said property of Allah. There are news reports that show that underneath it, he was wearing a shirt with the Iranian flag. Property of Allah. Apparently, he started shooting from his car and then got out, killing 2 and injuring 14. Last I heard was 14, maybe as high as 17 people. Now, people are making the mistake today in the media referring to this guy as a lone wolf. Anyone using that term lone wolf, you might want to seriously consider whether they have enough intelligence about national security and Islam to even be worthy of listening to. I know it's a phrase people pick up on. Maybe they mean it because it's a catch-all phrase for a lone actor. But reality is it's a phrase that people should not be using. It's kind of like saying Sharia law. Sharia means law. So when you say Sharia law, you're saying law. And of course, the people that are the experts know to say just Sharia or Islamic law. You hear someone say Sharia law, you're like, do you really know what it is you're saying? Because maybe you should just say Sharia or what we call Islamic law. So you kind of start drilling down on how much knowledge does someone have. And I have to question, the people that run around saying this guy was a lone wolf, I question, how much do they really know about national security or Islam? There is no such thing as a lone wolf. There, you know the old saying, no man is an island unto himself? Someone brainwashed, indoctrinated, educated, and encouraged that Islamic jihadi worldview in that man. Okay, he didn't act on his own. He was either directed or instructed. He was directed or educated. He was directed or incited. He was directed or encouraged. Okay, this is not a lone wolf. This guy is operating, as he told you, on behalf of Allah. His shirt said property of Allah. Okay, and now we're watching to see what goes on. I don't know what went on yesterday in D.C., but someone supposedly rammed a car or was in an accident, got out on the Beltway in D.C. and outside of D.C. there, and I guess the reports are killed a woman and a dog. Now, I don't know. I haven't been able to get a lot of details on that because I don't think the media likes to cover the truth. If this guy wasn't wearing a shirt, property of Allah, we would probably be told he was just a disgruntled American. Yeah, it was just a disgruntled guy who came unhinged. Or uneducated, psychotic. It's usually one of those three, right? They were kind of trapped when a picture pops up that says property of Allah. So I don't trust the media to tell us what really went on in Washington, D.C. with that guy. The fact that he killed a woman and a dog, well, let's see. I wonder what the Quran and the Hadiths have to say about women. Oh, and what they have to say about dogs. So I don't know. Maybe that had nothing to do with Islam, but I would certainly have some questions about it now. But yeah, we kind of said, everybody be ready. When this goes down, the terror cells, the individuals could be activated. We're going to get to more about what's happening in Israel. We have, I guess, the former president of Iran, Ahmadinejad. I guess he is now deceased. And then we'll get to Jason Pratt, who actually used to work in that building in Bahrain that we saw destroyed over the weekend. We'll be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are
Good.
we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage, and now, real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, guys, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. Aaron Labarco, our reporter on the ground in Israel, brought to you by you. We send him regular love offerings through our foundation. So if you appreciate the fact we have a guy on the ground in Israel, and we bring you this kind of news and information, well, please help us keep that going by helping us with our foundation, which sends him regular love offerings because a workman is worthy of his hire. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. It also will help us as we try to raise the funds for our free National Worldview Weekend that we're moving to Waukesha, Wisconsin, the Expo Center, on Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th. It's absolutely free. We've never done that before in 22 years, but we're going to take love offerings throughout the year, and the building alone will cost us over 10 grand to rent for the 2 days, not to mention the auditoriums, flights, hotel, car rentals for the speakers, and flights, etc. So again, your help through the foundation helps us do so much so that everyone can benefit from education, edification, equipping, discipleship, even if their financial budget doesn't allow them to contribute. So that we're able to reach people all over the world through this. Someone emailed the other day, said that they have a 29-year-old daughter that is vaccine injured in a very, very, very serious manner as a child, and has to live with them. And all of the work and attention that requires for them. And she's 29. And so we get so many emails from people saying how much our ministry means to them, keeps them encouraged and edified. And there's so many of you going through very, very difficult things. We get so many emails from so many of you going through such difficult things in your life, right? And that's why I don't even like to talk about, the herniated disc in my neck, because it's so small. But at the same time, I could use your prayers. But I also want you to know why I'm not going to be around much this week, but also why you may see me sitting with an ice pack on my arm or neck, because it runs down my arm. And you're like, why is he doing that? Or why is he twisting and turning like he's uncomfortable? So being on TV, you have to explain a little bit of this too, because they're like, why is he squirming around so much? But my problems are so small compared to so many of the issues that many of you deal with, and there is no end in sight for some of your health issues. So be praying for our audience as well. Think about all the folks in our audience. You don't know their name, maybe. The Lord knows their name. Pray for the various people in this broadcast audience, many of them who are going through very deep waters. But getting that email over the weekend and seeing it from a lady who say that her and her husband are so encouraged by our network. See, we get so many emails like that, and people would not be able to be equipped and edified and encouraged and taught, because some folks just have their budgets all used up, and we don't want anyone turned away. So our foundation allows us to do so very much. Let's turn now quickly to Jason Pratt. He is a former naval intelligence officer, fighter pilot, Navy fighter pilot, literal rocket scientist, expert in satellites and drones. He joins us today as well, along with Aaron Lavarco on the ground in Israel. Jason, thank you for joining us this weekend for special broadcast. Thank you for joining us right now. I understand you and I talked many times when you were stationed in Bahrain, and we have a picture here for the radio audience. It's a picture of him in his uniform standing in front of the building there in Bahrain. I think that's the building that actually got taken out this weekend, but I think folks were evacuated in advance, so no casualties there. Do I have all that right, Jason?
Yeah, hello, Brandon. Thanks for having me on. That's correct. That's the 5th Fleet headquarters building behind me there, behind the flagpole. And that is the building that they said was taken out. The geolocations that I have of the various missile strikes are kind of all around that building. So I don't know if that building sustained a direct hit or not, but certainly that would have been the building that they were aiming for. So I did send a map of the 5th Fleet headquarters over to you. So that'll show a little close up of the located destruction. And yeah, so that would be that particular headquarters building that you're seeing taking a missile strike. At least that's what they were aiming at. So yeah, I was stationed there at the headquarters for 6 months for a deployment supporting the 5th Fleet special operations and planning and intelligence collections. That headquarters is the focal point of assigning collections and collecting and disseminating intelligence for the region, supporting both the Navy 5th Fleet, so all the naval vessels in the AOR in the Persian Gulf area, as well as CENTCOM. So they provided all the planning for that, as well as any Straits of Hormuz transits. We look at those very carefully and provide lots of intelligence. So that being said, that means they're going to be the first to know if a strike is being planned on their particular location. So they'll have indications and warning. We discuss those every single day in the headquarters there. We'll have daily intel briefings that are very detailed, and then numerous times throughout the day. And then we have watch centers that are keeping an eye on the tactical operations picture. So we have TOCs or tactical operations centers. And so they would have known if there was a strike coming. And in fact, when I was stationed there, I had 2 evacuation orders while there, and we actually sat and watched a strike being launched at our location. But then we were able to observe as the various defenses were taking down that strike. So we weren't too concerned, so we didn't have to evacuate.
Wow. Can you imagine being in a building you know is being targeted, and you're sitting there watching your military, our military, take out that threat? Pretty amazing. Let's go back to video footage here for the radio audience. It is a building in Bahrain. This is a civilian skyscraper that was targeted. It's on fire. Heavy black smoke is coming out along with fire. This is a very large skyscraper. It is being filmed from the street level there in Bahrain. There's explosions toward the little bit, I would say, the building at the 25% from the ground level. Just an explosion we saw in that footage. I'm describing this for the radio audience. Yeah, you know, we hear so much about Israel. Israel gets blamed for things they didn't do. And yet here is Iran targeting civilians. I wonder if we're going to hear from Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or any of the rest of them about Iran targeting civilians, because this is all we hear. Carrie Pergine, you know, where is she? Where is she talking about Iran targeting civilian buildings? All we hear about is this trash talk on Israel. A lot of it is not true. There was reports of a school getting hit and Israel was being blamed. We'll get the truth about that in just a minute from Aaron. But speak to this. Here we go. They're obviously targeting civilian buildings here. Jason?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that I would like your viewers and listeners to carefully consider just in the world of military operations and strategy and tactics. If you just look carefully at the modus operandi, the standard CONOPS of particularly Iranian, but this is typical of Islamic countries in general. I was going to use a map and show where in Tehran and these other locations that we have targeted their military headquarters are located. And you'll see that they're in very dense populated areas close to lots of other facilities like schools, hospitals. And so they intentionally put these targets in close proximity to soft civilian targets that will provide just tons of great propaganda for them to show or try to state that their enemies, that the America or Israel are targeting civilian structures. And that's simply not the case. We choose the weaponry as best as possible to minimize collateral damage because we know that those facilities are there. But sometimes that collateral damage is unavoidable. Now, contrast that very starkly. And again, the Iranians will cry out and declare how horrific it is to be targeting civilians, which we're not doing. But even when that collateral damage happens, they will state that we are specifically targeting civilian populations and declaring how terrible that is. Meanwhile, when you consider so there's what you're showing right now that's the Fifth Fleet headquarters with the and then warehouses right there. And my picture was taken right underneath that kind of vertical E structure, which is actually the Navy Lodge. But in any case, contrast that with what we're seeing in reality. The Iranians are specifically, directly, and intentionally targeting not military targets and not even military targets that are in proximity to civilian targets. They are targeting, such as the Palm Hotel in United Arab Emirates. There are no military infrastructure anywhere near that, as well as many of the other locations, particularly in Israel. They are targeting purely civilian locations that are far isolated from any military viable target. So they are intentionally targeting civilian populations. And so we got to remind people as they cry out, and many on the left are going to be declaring how terrible America and Israel are, that we're targeting civilians. Again, that simply is not the case. And contrast that then with what the Iranians are actually doing, and ask them why do they not decry then the Iranian targeting, which they're clearly doing.
A girls' school being hit in Iran. So, Aaron, I guess you didn't hear me there. We were hearing reports this weekend of a girls' school being hit in Iran. Some girls killed. They were blaming that on Israel. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and say collateral damage doesn't happen at times. It's very, very sad. I think Israel and the U.S. are taking great pains to make sure that innocent people are not killed. But it turns out that report maybe wasn't even accurate as to that being caused by Israel. Is that correct, Aaron?
That is correct. And I watched some recordings about that. Look, either it was collateral damage, meaning it was a pure mistake by either the Israelis or the Americans. I find that hard to believe because in the pictures that I saw, the school was in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't like in the middle of a suburban area where it was surrounded by buildings. It was a very rural looking picture of the school. So I find it hard to believe. But let's say it was a mistake. That does happen in war. And I would like to believe that everyone knows the true nature of the American and the Israeli military, that they try their very, very best to avoid civilian casualties, innocent people. So that's how it's looking. Look, I've been spinning off of what your distinguished guest was saying. The Iranians are deliberately attacking places in Kuwait and the UAE and Bahrain. They're wanting to create a frenzy. I was reading articles about this today. They are wanting to get the focus off them. They want to put pressure on the United States. They want to get the Democrats to turn against the Republicans. This is strategic. Why else are most of their missiles that are being fired are not being fired toward Israel, even though we're taking a huge barrage? They are being fired to these other Muslim nations in the Gulf. Why? This is strategic. They want the price of oil. They're firing at oil places. They want the oil prices to go up so that people will complain, will turn against America and say it's all because of America. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a dirty tactic from the Iranian IRGC.
All right, we're going to come back with more, Aaron and Jason. And we have some American pilots that had to eject over Kuwait. We have footage of what they were told by folks on the ground. Go away.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed. All right, welcome back. Glad you are with us. Aaron Navarco joins us from Israel. Jason Pratt, former National Intelligence Officer, Navy pilot, and literal rocket scientist. We are getting footage now. Here is footage we have. I'll explain it for the radio audience. It is somebody on their smartphone approaching a U.S. pilot who is standing on a beach. The ocean is right behind him. The sun is behind him. He is being approached, and the individual says, "You are safe. Thank you for helping us. You are safe. Thank you for helping us." I think that's the beach behind him. Maybe not. Maybe that's just rocks, and the sun makes it look like it's water behind him. But he is down and had to eject. But again, he is told, "You are safe. Thank you for helping us." We saw video footage of another pilot, maybe that one, but another pilot in the back of an SUV, and all of his gear was on, and he was laying down in the back of that SUV. And one of the Kuwaitis said to someone else, "Leave him alone. Leave him alone." So they're being protected by the Kuwaitis, who, of course, you'll remember Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait under President George H. Bush, and we went in to help them. So we have some friends in Kuwait. What can you tell us about that from your military and national intelligence background? Two things. One, what is it like to eject? And two, I don't know if you ever had to do that, but I'm sure you practiced for it. What's it like to have to eject? What went wrong here? I'm hearing friendly fire, maybe. And then three, tell us about why these folks are so pro-America in Kuwait for our audience members who maybe are new and younger.
Yeah, so I did send some pictures. Actually, I had a picture of an F-15 Strike Eagle. So the F-15 Strike Eagles are there, I believe, from the 335th Fighter Squadron, based out of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. That Strike Eagle is a two-passenger, two-crewed fighter jet that is specifically designed for air superiority as well as air-to-ground attack. In fact, I got to fly F-15s out of that same air base as well while I was stationed, or actually when I was on the Truman in the Persian Gulf. And so those F-15s were taking off from the air base there in Kuwait. In fact, that's a picture I sent you that shows the air base and where a couple of missiles had struck that air base, and that's likely where we have the 3 or 4 service members that were killed. They were in the barracks there. The barracks area was struck. The Strike Eagle is there. That's the one right there. So you can see they struck the middle of the airfield. They struck a fuels depot off to the east, and then to the south is the area where the personnel were probably killed, unfortunately. But they were, because of those attacks, likely either drone attacks or missile attacks, the surface-to-air system was in full alert, and unfortunately, they don't distinguish necessarily. They're supposed to be able to distinguish based on the squawk that you're using, your military squawk, and to not target you. But there are overrides, or those systems can also malfunction. So it's very likely that they were struck. The pictures that I saw of the F-15s that were falling looked like the tail section was taken out, which would be common for an infrared or heat-seeking missile to take out the engine area of the aircraft. Fortunately, all 6 crew, so 3 aircraft, 2 crew each, all 6 crew safely ejected. The ejection is a very violent event. It is something we train for with some simulators. Basically, we take a ride on an ejection seat on basically a kind of an air, compressed air machine that gives us a sense of what the ride will be like, but at a fraction of the actual G's. I have several friends that have ejected. Fortunately, I never had to eject. That's kind of your last ditch effort to save yourself. Several of my friends that did eject could not fly anymore because of the injuries they sustained, broken necks, broken femurs, and various other things, but you're alive. So it's a rough ride, but thankful. And sometimes you just walk away from it, as well as it looks like these aircrew were. Now, the Kuwaitis are very fond of the Americans there. One, we provide an awful lot of military equipment to supply their own military, which they're keenly aware of, as we know in the 90s when Iraq invaded them and we came in and liberated the country. So they have very fond feelings towards Americans. I went to school with the college with some Kuwaitis, and so they very much appreciate the role that America took in getting Iraq out of Kuwait and Saddam Hussein from trying to steal their oil and their country, really. So they still have a great deal of affection for American service members.
That's good. Good. We are getting reports that a refinery, a major top oil refinery, was targeted by Iranian drone attack in response to the U.S. and Israeli strikes in the region. We're also being told here in the U.S. a new DHS memo cautions about possible lone wolf attacks. There's that stupid word again. And cyber disruptions tied to the ongoing conflict. Before I go back to Aaron, what are cyber disruptions? How would they? What are they trying to say there? Would that include power grid infrastructure, Jason? Cyber disruptions?
That's kind of a catch-all phrase. So expect that to impact infrastructure. So again, we're under attack every single day, but they're going to ratchet up the attacks. And I think a couple interesting things. A lot of those attacks are really going to be more capable if they're coming from China or Russia. That being said, the Straits of Hormuz have been blockaded or at least closed off, according to Iran, which means, and America is saying, yeah, we don't recommend any transits there. So the flow of oil is essentially stopped right now. That's not going to impact America too much, but it will impact the global cost of oil. But more significantly, that is something, particularly Iranian oil, which has also stopped flowing, is something that China just deeply depends on. So this is going to impact China an awful lot. So I don't see China wanting to elongate this war. So I don't see them getting too involved necessarily in the cyber attacks. But that being said, these disruptions, we can see just absolutely everything depends on it, from various airlines, their scheduling and all their coordination, their flight paths, and coordinating between air traffic control, power grid, computer systems, networks. So you name it, the whole gambit. So expect that there could be impacts to any and all of those, at least in the coming day or so.
Let's go back to you, Aaron, on the ground in Israel. Saudi Arabia says a top oil refinery was targeted by an Iranian drone attack. What else are you hearing in the region that's under assault? And what about you guys in Israel? A missile got through in Jerusalem last night. Anything else? I mean, there's a lot of fake news floating around out there, folks, on social media. We have to go verify all of these stories. But there was all kinds of reports that Israel had some major infrastructure that got targeted and hit. Some of the stories we have not been able to confirm at all. So can you bring us an update, Aaron, on anything that has been a substantial hit to any of your key infrastructure there in Israel?
Actually, nothing really substantial. I mean, we value one life as substantial. So, and we had a hit in Beit Shemesh 2 nights ago, where 9 people were killed and still about 11 are missing. And so they're assuming that a good number of those will probably be found dead. We've had some other residential homes that have been hit. I had a report, and this was a fake report. In the northern port of Haifa, we have a massive petroleum tank. By the way, that's where the USS General Ford was docked. And yeah, I saw a fake news that the petroleum tank there was hit, but I found absolutely nothing. But a lady from overseas in Singapore read something there. So no, I don't think anything really major at this. Another report I heard was that Benjamin Netanyahu's private residence was hit as well. That is not true. So yeah, it's at a very minimum, thank God, meaning that the Iron Dome and the David Sling is, before this war, it was acting at about an 80% accuracy rate. It's at least the same this war, but also we've started to use our laser dome, our laser defense missile, which is new on the shelves, and that's being tested. I haven't heard any statistics, but we have been using them. And remember, every single Iron Dome missile costs between 50 to 80,000 US dollars, whereas the laser defense is ridiculously low, something like $2 every time we shoot it. So that's a big game changer for us. So
yeah, Aaron, that's that directed energy weapon. I'm glad to see them using that. Yeah, I heard as much as $3 per shot. So that's a good exchange.
I'm not going to complain over another dollar.
Right. And kind of related to, I wanted to go back to the school that was supposedly struck, the girls' school in, I think, Mahib. It's to the east of Bandar Abbas in Iran and on the southern coast there, right adjacent to the Strait of Hormuz. And that location, there's not much there. There's very little of much of anything there. So I don't see much reason for American or Israeli military to be targeting that area. But that being said, and I don't know, Logan, if you can bring it up, but I did send you a picture of the mobile launcher. The most of the missiles that Iran are launching are on mobile launchers so that they can move them around. They can have them hidden in caves and underground bunkers and elsewhere, and then pull them out to launch them. It takes them about maybe 30 minutes to an hour to set them up and launch, and then break down and move. And so it's possible that because of the location there to the Strait of Hormuz, that they had a mobile launcher there. Some intel is indicating that that hit to the girls' school was actually from a failed Iranian missile and not from any American. So again, you can't trust the Iranians. It's very likely that that's not uncommon for them to have a failure on launch, that it was one of their own missiles that ended up collapsing, failing in flight after launch and struck their own school. So that's a very likely scenario as well. Or they parked the mobile launcher next to the school and we targeted it.
Oh, wow. Let me go back. Great job, guys. Great job, both of you. Let me go back to Aaron real quick. Aaron, before we go to break here in about 60 seconds, President Trump says any of the leaders that would have taken over have been killed, 2 or 3 down the line. That, to me, though, was a little concerning. I don't want any of those people taking over. Now, I understand that there are some folks that have been flipped by Mossad that are in key places in the government. I understand there are key people in the government that have flipped. Some of them who have flipped and are in favor of the Crown Prince Pahlavi returning and might even be part of his government. We had one of the guys on last night who works directly with the Crown Prince, stating that some in the government are loyal to Pahlavi and would be part of his government, ready to go on the ground. But as far as 2 or 3 leaders down, I'm not interested in hearing about 2 or 3 leaders down being who the U.S. will negotiate, but they've been taken out. And I noticed that MEK, this group we've warned about, this Marxist Islamic group, that some of the former MEK fighters, like Ray, who was an MEK fighter for 18 years, said, MEK, if they go back in and take over, they will be worse than what we just came out of. It would be better that we keep this regime than we go to MEK. But I got reports this weekend that some of their mouthpieces were all over Fox News. Let's ask Aaron about all that and more. Jason Pratt, Aaron Lavarco joining us. We'll be right back. Go to worldviewtalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products, but you can explain to them what it is you're desiring to acquire. How much electricity are you wanting to generate with this solar generator? Well, they'll tell you what size you need. worldviewtalk.com or 1-866-738-3224. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Now, this is a report coming from the New York Post, guys. This may have absolutely nothing to do with what's going on, but it's interesting and tragic that this has happened. William McCaslin, retired general who led Air Force Research Laboratory, goes missing. A retired U.S. Air Force general was reported missing in New Mexico, with authorities warning that medical concerns have heightened fears for his safety. He's a retired gentleman, 68, last seen around 11 a.m. Friday in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. They don't know what has happened here. They don't know what he was wearing. They don't know in which direction he may have traveled. So again, due to his medical issues, law enforcement is concerned for his safety. So again, I don't know if that means they knew he had Alzheimer's or dementia. I have no idea. Or did he have medical issues and they're concerned because now he's missing and he has medical issues and he needs treatment, medication, etc. So again, I have no idea what connection this has with anything, but you start to worry about some of these guys that are former military, and potentially if you have carousels on the ground that might want to take advantage of this. I believe this gentleman also had worked at Kirkland Air Force Base as well. I don't know. Interesting. Ahmadinejad, he is gone. The former president is gone. Aaron, speak quickly about MEK and the talk of, well, 2 or 3 people down in leadership are gone, so we can't talk to them. I hope President Trump isn't planning on talking to any of the remaining regime members. We don't need this. Let's get back to negotiation stuff. We certainly don't need the MEK mouthpieces on Fox News and other outlets. Speak to this, please, Aaron.
Yeah, that would be dangerous. Look, what I've seen on the news today, Donald Trump, he is an overdrive. He's not going to stop now. He is absolutely going for it. Gloves are off. Maybe he threw that out as a gesture to see how the opposition, the regime, are going to pick up on that. But what you were saying before about potentially that there are members of the government, the Iranian government, who have flipped sides, that would be interesting. We saw that with the story of the son of Hamas, the founder of Hamas, whose son ended up being a undercover spy and an operative for the Shabak, the equivalent to the American FBI. And he actually talks about how he was recruited and actually how when he stepped forward and offered his services to help Israel, they weren't sure whether he was the real thing, whether he was playing a double spy, whether he was playing around. So over a period of time, the more information that he gave to Israel, the more it was accurate, and he actually was saving lives, and they realized this was the real thing. So I would hope that if this is the case, that the Americans or the Israelis who are in touch with these people, they will have a little bit of a track record. We'll see whether whether he's tested the time. And I think it's great. I think this would be fantastic if they're really legitimate people, and that maybe, I was listening to the ex-Shah's son, Pahlavi, today. Look, he's not trying to push his way into becoming the leader. He basically said, the people are calling for my name. He said, I'll be happy to step forward and help any other leaders that want to take over. So I like the fact that he's not trying to grab hold of the leadership, but he's there, he's offering it. Let's see what happens. But yeah, it would be catastrophic if a new government was worse than the one that's in place right now.
Jason, we're getting reports now that Israel, get my names confused here. Israel has taken out an Iranian drone carrier. An Iranian drone carrier that Israel or the U.S., I guess it's now the U.S., I'm being told, has taken that out. What do you know about the drone capability? Iran is known for their drones, are they not?
Yeah, I think their drone capability far exceeds actually their Air Force. So they have a number of different models of their Mahajer and their Shahed drones. They're all winged drones. They look, some of them look very similar to our Predator drones, copycat there, and or like a Delta Wing. And in fact, the hotel that you showed earlier, I watched them build that hotel when I was deployed there. That was on fire. That would have been hit by a drone. So that's the kind of damage the drone can do. They can kind of swarm them. Yeah, there you go. So that's the result of a drone. And so you can see they can do a good bit of damage. They will use them to attack ships, to attack oil rigs. There was two oil rigs, two oil shippers that were attacked in the Strait of Hormuz over the weekend, one of which was actually Iranian owned. It's been docked there for some time. And so we think they just took that out so that we couldn't use it or take it. But again, those would have been taken out by drones. They'll use them. Also, a lot of the petroleum POL facilities are going to be attacked by drones. So very capable. They can carry quite a bit of explosives. They've gotten quite good at flying them, even in formation. So a lot of capability. That's, again, where an awful lot, and they're cheap. They're very cheap to build, very easy to build. And compare that with, a Patriot missile that's going to have to take it out. The exchange rate there is not very good. When you have like just a couple $1,000s worth of UAV being taken out by an $80,000 to $150,000 missile or more. So that's it's good that they've got a lumber. If you look at a lot of the targets that we've taken out, the vast majority of them are along the coast. Those are airfields or along the western border. Again, all airfields that they launch drones out of, as well as the number of the islands. Farsi Island, for example, Korg Island are targets that we took out where they launched drones from. And then we've been sinking a lot of their Navy ships, their Corvette ships and others. So, those are going to be prime targets.
Jason Pratt, I'd give you a website for him if he had one, but he doesn't have one. He is gainfully employed right now, and so he's busy in the defense field still. Jason Pratt joins us, wonderful Christian man. Many of you know him from our network. And of course, our beloved Messianic Jewish reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. Aaron and many more will be back with me tonight for Brandon House Live. Hope you'll stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider. Take care.
This has been...
And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on Worldview Tube. A few more minutes with both my guests. Jason, let me ask you as to your thoughts or concerns when it comes to terrorist attacks, terrorist cells. Someone, as I said, emailed in saying you guys called it. We're not interested in so much in calling things like that. We wish we were wrong, but we know and studied this long enough to know how they would act. We now are hearing DHS and others, as I said, have upped their warnings, FBI. They're even raising security in some major cities. Some of them, of course, I know when they mentioned the cities, some of them have large Jewish populations. What do you think the next few days, weeks are going to bring? And if we're going to be hitting thousands of targets, as President Trump is saying, and also Benjamin Netanyahu is saying, how long is this going to go on? So, A, what are the threats to the homeland, and how long do you see this going on?
Yeah, that is, I think, the key question for many of us around the world, really, that these terror cells are going to be, I think, really the primary threat and the more effective weapon available. Now, back in July, when Operation Midnight Hammer went down, I fully expected there to be much more activity in that front, and there wasn't any. So it's kind of interesting. We know that they're here. I sent Logan a picture from a Turkish citizen from his passport that was recovered on our southern border, and many like it were recovered with stamps, including stamps from Iran and other countries, Syria. And so we know that they're part of these terror networks. So we know they're here. We don't know what number. They're in the thousands, close, probably over 100,000 of them. So considering that we have over 100,000 terrorists in this country, it doesn't take a whole lot of them. We expect these quote unquote lone wolf as the media calls them, just individuals, single individuals that will just go out and execute an attack. These are, and even just up to 3 to 5 person teams going out and committing as much destruction as possible. So be on the lookout, be on guard, be very careful. If you conceal carry, I highly recommend it. And be on the lookout, pay attention to what's going on. And again, if you see something, say something, because I think that is the predominant threat right now. Now, it may not materialize. These individuals may chicken out. They may not have opportunity because we're on guard. And that's a key thing. A lot of these small units, if they encounter individuals that show that they are aware, that they're alert, that they're monitoring them, then they will they're looking for a soft target. They're looking for an easy target like the nightclub that we saw in Austin. So those are the types of targets they're looking for. I would recommend staying away from those locations for a small period of time, or if you do, stay very, very vigilant.
How long do you think this is going to go on, Jason?
This could go on for many months. I think a lot of the attacks, the drones are going to be, and missile strikes are going to run out. They're going to run out of ammunition. We're going to destroy an awful lot of it. We're going to stop them. And so I think the lasting threat is really from these individual terror cells that can just continue to wreak havoc. And we can fully expect that they're very well armed as well. So I think that could go on for months if they decide to carry on with their intended mission. But again, they may just remain asleep as they are.
Aaron, how do you think the Middle East is reshaped after this? And what are your thoughts in regards to how this reshaping could enter us into an era of peace, the Abrahamic Accords, peace treaties, setting the stage for Bible prophecy? What does the Middle East look like after all this?
Wow. That's an exciting question. Firstly, Iran. I mean, I'm hearing people even like Ani and Sharham talking about going back and visiting their homeland. That would be so exciting. Iranians in Melbourne who had to flee decades ago. So for sure, Iran will be different, and I think that will be exciting. And just imagine the relationship with Iran and Israel and what that's going to create. Now, I sent you something today. Qatar, the fact that Iran are striking all these other Muslim nations, Brannon, means that these nations, they're turning against Iran. So they're kind of joining in the coalition. So countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and others who, maybe leaned more towards America and Israel not striking, now they're right on board. But where is it going to lead is the question.
That's our broadcast. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching and listening. And may God save America and protect Israel. Take care.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff operations officer, assisted the national security team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan, and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
The president, Iran is not just Iran. We have this sort of new axis of evil of Iran, China, Russia, Venezuela. And what the president seems to be doing, to me anyway, is isolating them from each other and then sort of picking them off one by one, forcing them into a more conciliatory posture vis-a-vis the United States. And honestly, what could be more America first than that? China was getting 10% of its oil from Venezuela at sort of bargain basement rates, and the other 10% from Iran. So it's lost 20% of its oil supply. So for China now, every barrel it has to consider, okay, are we going to use that for our expansionist foreign policy goals, or do we have to really focus on protecting our domestic aims, especially at a time when it is heading into an economic